Hello everyone, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Meg, and today I'm going to be doing the last garden harvest of the summer stuff. It is late November here in North Carolina. We haven't had a complete frost yet. We have had like a light frost, and some things are looking a little bit damaged, but they're still kind of hanging on. So I need to get things out of the garden before we have that really hard frost. I am officially back creating content. I took like a month, almost 2 months off because I had thyroid surgery. I had half of my thyroid removed because I had thyroid cancer. Good news is that the surgery was curative. I do not have cancer anymore. It did not spread. It was caught early enough, thank goodness, that it hadn't spread or anything like that. You can see my scar here. Here's where they went in and took out half of my thyroid. I still have like a little bit of a hematoma kind of behind it that you can see. But other than that, I've gotten my meds adjusted. I'm like finally starting to feel better. But then just as soon as I started to feel better from my surgery, I got sick with some kind of cold. Whatever it was nasty. I still am a little nasally, so don't mind my voice today, but it's been like 10 days and I still don't feel like 100% over it. But yeah, it's cold and flu season for sure. Be careful out there. Overall, I'm feeling better. I'm back in the garden. We've got to get all this stuff out of here before it starts to get really cold. So let's get to it. I think first I'm going to go ahead and get all of these loofah. Even if they're green, they will dry out in my greenhouse, no problem. I've done this for a few years. And honestly, I feel like they dry out a little bit better that way than, being exposed to the elements. But I'm going to grab all of the loofah that are on this trellis. And as you can see, the plant already has a little bit of cold damage. All of the leaves are very crinkly, but the loofahs are still holding on to the vine. So let's grab all these. There are a lot of green ones because this plant would just not stop producing. There are still little tiny baby ones that have just flowered. If you don't know anything about loofah, these are gourds and they're edible when they are young and tender and green, just like this one. As they start to dry out, they turn into this kind of like yellow color. Kind of looks like they're molding or something, but they're not. They're just drying out. And eventually they turn brown and crispy like this one. And usually if you squeeze it and you hear this crunch, that's how you know it's ready. And there's a sponge inside here. It's an all-natural sponge. I use these for cleaning dishes. You can use them in the shower as like a body sponge. For Christmas gifts, I'm gonna be making some goat milk soaps, but I'm gonna cut a piece of loofah and put it in the middle, and I think I'm gonna do a video on that. A lot of my Indian and my Filipino followers have told me how good the young ones are, and I've never tried them. And I see quite a few on here, so I might be cooking these up and trying them. I actually cannot believe how many loofahs this one plant produced. This is one plant. Now we're on the other side of the trellis. There's some up in here, but I'm kind of scared of the spider situation. So here's what we ended up with. I cannot believe there were this many loofah on one plant. I counted 39, and that's including 4 that I had already harvested. They have like these little mold spots on them. I think it was very wet when I harvested these. Like, we had rain for weeks. These were the first ones that like the first ones that bloomed, the first ones that dried out. And I've already had these harvested for a little while now, but I wasn't sure what to do with them because I don't like these little mold spots. Hopefully the rest don't have these, but I'm pretty sure it was just because it was like super wet for a long time when I harvested these. I think I have enough of these young ones to try them in a dish. So I think I'm gonna look up a dish tonight, maybe an Indian dish or like a Filipino dish. Maybe I'll ask my neighbor Menchie if she wants to teach me something to make, but yeah, I'm gonna eat these, I think. Next, I'm gonna harvest the peanuts. I didn't grow quite as many peanuts as I did last year. I put them in a smaller bed, kind of like this circular bed. Last year I did an entire 6x3 bed full of them. And while I was able to make like exactly 2 cups of my own peanut butter, I felt like it was a lot of work for like trying to make peanut butter, if that makes any sense. So I decided to grow them again just because I like growing them and I think it's fun, and they do really well here in North Carolina because it's really hot here. Peanuts love the heat. But instead of making my own peanut butter with them, I will probably just roast them just to snack on. I planted these out in April as soon as it was hot enough for Peanuts' liking, and it's now the end of November, so it's been like over 6 months, which is perfect for peanuts. So a lot of people are shocked to find out that peanuts actually grow underneath the ground. A lot of people think that they grow on trees like other tree nuts, but actually peanuts aren't even nuts at all. They're legumes. They flower above the ground, but then their flowers kind of droop to the soil, and the peanuts grow underneath the ground. And I'm gonna pull up this first plant here, and I can already see peanuts. Look at how cool that is. As tempting as it is, I'm not gonna pick the peanuts from the plant just yet. I am just gonna cut off the tops of the plant, and I'm going to leave them attached for now because I need to cure these peanuts, and they cure the best just still attached to the plant. Just pulled out this one. Look at all of these peanuts. I think peanuts are one of the coolest plants. Look at this pull I just did. There are so many peanuts on here. This is amazing. I cut off the top foliage to give to the chickens, and they are really enjoying it. They absolutely love peanut leaves. When one of them would escape and just be wandering around the garden, the first thing that they would go to are the peanuts. When I was sifting through here, I found some baby potatoes. These are the Blue Majesty potatoes. And I had these planted in the spring before I planted the peanuts. So what I'm gonna do to get a head start on potatoes next spring, I'm just gonna throw them back in the soil. Cover them up, forget about them. I'm going to crack open one of these peanuts. I'm gonna sacrifice one just to show you how beautiful this variety is. This variety is called Fastigiata Pinstriped. See if I can crack it open. It's like not wanting to crack open. This is what they look like. They're like this beautiful magenta color, and they're striped, and yeah, they're just really pretty. Now we're gonna grab the sweet potatoes. I am not super confident about these sweet potatoes. They kind of have looked a little lanky the whole time that they're growing, and they haven't been very vigorous, but they have a little bit of frost damage, so we're just gonna see what's under there. Again, I'm not very confident that there's gonna be anything. Actually, okay, we've got our first potato. I am shocked. I'm shocked. That's a good one. I don't know why I'm expecting for there to be nothing, but this already has me hopeful. I think that there's some potatoes in here. That is a weird looking sweet potato. It looks like an intestine. I'm kind of back to being disappointed because I feel like we got a really good one, and now there's just kind of nothing. They're really, really tiny. I planted these pretty late in the season, so I think maybe they just didn't have enough time to grow. Some other tiny ones. These are so tiny. They didn't get a chance to grow. Too bad. I love the taste of nothing. Oh, there's something. But it's a little skinny something. What is this? This isn't a potato. Nothing will top my sweet potato harvest my first year of gardening. I don't know what happened, but I absolutely slayed the sweet potato harvest my first year. I got the biggest, best sweet potatoes ever, and I just have not been able to replicate that. I don't know why. It might be like a watering issue because this bed is not irrigated. Here is the sweet potato harvest. I'm pretty disappointed just because they are pretty immature and just not top tier sweet potatoes, but you know, you win some, you lose some. Now I'm going to tackle the peppers. There are a lot of peppers. There's even more peppers than our last harvest back in October. Start with these habaneros here. I've got two different types of habaneros. These are the red ones, and then I have some orange ones over there. These are cracked, so I'm going to give them to the chickens. And yes, chickens can have hot peppers because they can't taste heat. Moving over here, I've got this one. This one is kind of just leaning over. Like it got so heavy with peppers that it's just falling on the ground. Look at all these peppers. There's so many. So these are habaneros as well, but they're just the orange color. I think these ones are more pretty than the red ones. Just, I love this kind of orangey color. So many habaneros on here. I'm going to be making all the habanero things. I'm going to make some habanero jelly to give as Christmas gifts. I am going to make some habanero beef jerky to give as Christmas gifts as well. Maybe some habanero hot sauce. That used to be a favorite, but I have found myself in my older age, like literally the second I turned 30, it was like, oh, you can't really handle hot stuff like you used to. Your stomach is like, nope, we're 30 now. Can't do it. So I try to use habanero now as more of like a subtle kind of flavoring pepper instead of just like a straight up hot sauce. Got these orange little lunchbox peppers. These are sweet. Really great for snacking. I'll probably snack on these tonight actually. These are really good just like dipped in a little bit of ranch. A few red bell peppers in here. That is a good one. That's like a perfect red bell pepper. Lots of banana peppers on this plant. My nails that I have on currently are like little pruners. This is another one that's fallen over because it's just so heavy. This is my poblano pepper, and there are so many poblanos on here. There's this dish, this Mexican dish that I love with poblanos. It's called rajas con crema, and it's basically just poblanos roasted in a cream sauce, and then you like eat them on a tortilla. It's so yummy. You guys know this garden bed all too well. There are a ton of peppers in here. I'm gonna grab all of these little green serranos. They're not quite as hot as red serranos, but they still have a really great flavor. And these make a really great green hot sauce, especially if you mix them with jalapenos. There are just so many. Next week is going to be pepper processing week. I'm going to spend like over an hour picking all these peppers probably because there's just so many. So many. This is one serrano plant. Still going for the serranos. I think I'm almost done though. I think I've gotten most of them. Some bigger sweet peppers under here. I can't remember the name of these. I think it's called like Big Daddy Golden or something. I can't remember. They're just like a sweet Italian roasting pepper, and they're good green as well, so I'm just grabbing all the green ones too. There's a ton of jalapenos in here. I think jalapenos are my favorite pepper ever. I know that that's really like cliche, but I mean, they're one of the most popular peppers for a reason. Totally wasn't recording when I thought it was, but I also just harvested these calamansi, also called calamandin, from my calamansi bush. Also called the Filipino lemon because they're really tart and sour like a lemon. And that's how they're used in Filipino cuisine. I did not know that you're supposed to harvest them when they're green. These are way too overripe. I thought the opposite. I thought you were supposed to harvest them when they were ripe, but that's okay. I'm still gonna like either candy these or make some kind of syrup or something. I'm gonna find something to do with them. My roselle bush, unfortunately, I don't think anything is going to come of it because it got hit by a little light frost. It does not tolerate frost very well. It had just started flowering, so not a lot of the calyxes even got to the point of being able to be harvested because with roselle, you harvest a calyx like 2 to 4 weeks after blooming. The only one that did anything that looks proper ready is this one right here. So I guess I can go ahead and harvest this one. This is what they're supposed to look like when they are ready. It's like really nice and plump. There's a seed pod forming in there, and unfortunately, only one of all of these calyxes is like that. So the thing I learned about roselle this year is that it takes a long time to mature. It takes an entire growing season. It takes even longer than the growing season here in North Carolina, apparently, because how I grew this year is I just direct sowed it into the garden along with my okra, because I had never grown roselle before, and I know that it's in the okra family, and I thought it would grow just like okra, and I was wrong. My roselle plant didn't even start blooming until very, very late October, early November, and after the blooms, like I said, it takes like 2 to 4 weeks after blooming for them to be harvestable. And obviously me direct sowing it after our last frost just didn't give it enough time to fully mature. So what I'm going to do next year, because I still really want to grow this successfully, I love roselle hibiscus. I love having it in teas and drinks and things like that. So how I'm going to grow it next year is I'm going to start it indoors with my tomatoes and my peppers, give it a good 6 to 8 week head start before our last frost, and get a really good established plant, and then plant that out into the garden, and hopefully that'll give it the leeway that it needs to produce in time. So although I'm really disappointed, I was really looking forward to this harvest. This is how we learn in the garden. This was a new plant for me. I'd never grown it before, and I really needed a season to see how it grows to really understand the plant. And now that I understand the plant, I feel like I can grow it so much better next year. So gardening is all about failures. You have to learn from failing, and that's why it takes a long time to master gardening, because you have these entire seasons that you fail and you learn from it, and then you start over again next year. So failures are good in the garden. To learn even more, just because I'm curious, I'm gonna open this up. Like if I had a bunch of these that I were harvesting, you would peel off this outer calyx, and this is what you would dehydrate to use for tea. This is the seed pod, which is kind of cool. So you wouldn't really use this, but this is what we're after. This is what makes the delicious cranberry flavored tea. It even smells pretty good. I don't wonder what it tastes like raw. It's very tart. Like, it's good. It's really good. Like, this is what makes roselle tea. A question that I had about the roselle that I actually Googled like a few days ago was, do I have to wait for them to get to this stage to harvest them? Can I go ahead and harvest the immature calyxes, the ones that haven't even bloomed yet or they just bloomed? And the answer was yes. You can still harvest those and make tea out of them, but it's not really going to taste the same. As those calyxes plump up, that's where they kind of get their tartness and their peak flavor. So I think I'm just gonna not bother with it. I'm gonna call it a loss, call it a day, and just keep my sights set for that perfect roselle harvest next year. The camera decided to not record when I was harvesting these, but these are just some green pumpkins. My pumpkin plants were still going like this month. So these are just green pumpkins, and I can use these just as I would like a zucchini. And then there's this green kind of butternut squash here as well. So these are still usable, again, like a zucchini. I can put them in baked goods. There's people that make kind of like these mock apple pies with these, but yeah, this is what I got. All right, so we are done harvesting. Everything that I could possibly get out of my garden before it freezes next week is on this table, except for the peanuts. I couldn't really fit the peanuts on this table. They're already on the drying rack, but everything except for the peanuts. So I have a lot of loofah to dry out. I've got the dried ones that I'm going to turn into soaps. I've got a lot of peppers to process and turn into things. Don't really know what I'm going to do with those sweet potatoes because they're kind of sad and pitiful. I don't even really know if they're worth it. I don't know. I'll probably cure them anyway. I'll do the best that I can. Syrup, candy, something with the calamansi, and then maybe like a mock apple pie situation with the pumpkin, just kind of acting as a zucchini. But I have a long week ahead of me as far as just like dealing, like my friends at Homegrown and hand gathered, Jordan and Sylvan, how they say like dealing with the abundance. It truly feels like that. It's like the abundance is here and I'm so proud, and looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I grew all of this. But I'm like, what am I going to do with all this? Now I have to do something with it. Now I have to deal with it. And that's also a fun part of gardening, but it can be overwhelming when you're just like looking at an entire table full of stuff. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Substack. Don't forget to check out the Garden Girls podcast, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.